A grand canyon has opened up in our world. The fissure, the crack, grows wider every day. Neither on each side can hear a word that the other shrieks, and nor do they want to. While these armies and propagandists in the culture wars clash, down below in the enormous space between the two sides, the people of the world try to get on with their lives, alternately baffled, bored, and betrayed by the horrible noises and explosions that echo all around. My ultimate objection to political correctness is not that it combines so much of what I've spent a lifetime loathing and opposing: preachiness, piety, self-righteousness, heresy hunting, denunciation, shaming, assertion without evidence, accusation, inquisition, censoring. My real objection is that I don't think political correctness works. I believe one of the greatest human failings is to prefer to be right than to be effective.
From the heart of where it began.
As a Nigerian, I've always thought of the West as an oasis of freedom and opportunity. This is my only possible explanation for why many Nigerians will sell their ancestral inheritance and family heirlooms just to get a shot at Western education and a chance to pursue the American dream. But the advent of the internet and social media exposes what I consider to be the beginning of the end of Western civilization, pioneered by this current trend of rejecting and detesting the freedom of expression. The nightmare of third world countries under tyrannical military dictatorships have become the wet dreams of Western government and the fringe minority of activists who elect them. But one thing that Westerners have, which African communities desperately need, are fighters willing to speak truth to the mob of baby tyrants constantly offended by and resentful of true freedom. And one of those prominent fighters is a renowned podcast host and psychologist about to lose his academic career, known for breaking into tears unexpectedly and has really interesting hand gestures. I mean, love him or not, Jordan Peterson is a voice you can't ignore. From his impressive academic record, interesting lectures, to incredible smackdown of incompetent journalists. And nothing pisses the anti-liberty and censorship crybabies than someone with this level of competence and eloquence. I mean, they've tried endlessly to cancel him, and now their latest attempts aim to revoke his license.
The College of Psychologists has basically levied what are equivalent to about 13 lawsuits against me simultaneously. Now, the reason I call them lawsuits is because they're actions undertaken on behalf of a complainant. Now, the complainant can be anyone anywhere in the world who complains about me for any reason. They don't have to be former clients. They don't even have to be anybody I've ever met. They don't even have to have met anybody I've ever met.
And you might wonder, why is it important? Who cares if some Canadian psychologist loses his license? Well, this attack shows the current trajectory of Western civilization. This predicament also offers a glimmer of hope and a blueprint for resisting the forces of wokeness. And if you stick with me to the end of this video, you'll see exactly what I mean and understand why the assault on free speech in the West is something you should pay attention to and learn from.
One complaint is about the tweet I made about Ellen or Elliot Page, and when I said that a criminal physician cut off her breasts and that pride was the sin. One was about Sports Illustrated cover, where they featured that overweight model, and I tweeted out "not beautiful," and I guess that was something like fat shaming. I don't remember exactly what the charge was.
It doesn't come as a surprise to anyone who lives in the West or pays attention to pop culture and Western politics that something as simple as a tweet about a fat model can get you in serious trouble. Just Google Taylor Swift fat phobia and you'll be greeted with articles from renowned publications explaining how a 5-second scene from a music video made fat TikTokers want to starve to death.
Taylor Swift thinks being fat is a bad thing, which even that is irresponsible.
And what she did continued the negative stereotypes that fat is bad. And fat is not bad.
What the hell?
And big tech and major corporations can deplatform you or terminate your employment for criticizing or disagreeing with the fragile minority in the LGBTQIA+ community.
But I want to tell you something that's actually kind of scary about this banning. When they go to cancel you, ladies and gentlemen, it comes hard and fast.
Something big happened in Babylon Bee land. We got suspended from Twitter over the weekend.
I've essentially been banned from Twitter as a consequence.
You lose your Facebook, then your Instagram, then your Gmail, then your Discord, then your website hosting, then your domain name, then your payment processor, your bank,
You can even have your life ruined for simply following an account or liking a tweet from an account that's known for criticizing the trans agenda or any part of leftist ideology.
And then I criticized Justin Trudeau and a former staff member of Justin Trudeau and Jacinda Ardern. I made a joke about her coming. I was going to New Zealand and the New Zealand leftist press was freaking out. And I made this joke about bringing my alt-right trolls to New Zealand. And then I put in parentheses, or maybe they're just, ordinary people who are trying to clean up their rooms.
And these government officials often claim that they aren't doing this out of mere disagreement or in an attempt to quiet opposition to their stupid, ineffective policies. No, they are fighting misinformation or disinformation. But we all know that the government holds the standard and the impeccable record of never telling a lie to the people they govern. I mean, when has the government ever lied to its people in recent years?
We all understand a recession to be 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth in a row.
That is not the definition.
What?
Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie?
She was on top of mine.
Stop it. Get some help.
It's a what you call a coalition, a consortium,
pact of nations.
A pact, exactly. And so that's why we were able to do that. Again, we didn't do it on our own. We did it clearly in step with Canada.
You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home, politically.
Oh, say it with me. Sí, se puede. The future is ours.
But this means, from the data we looked at, that we now have 3 highly effective vaccines.
Many months later,
vaccinated people who do have a breakthrough infection are clearly capable of transmitting the infection to an uninfected person. But they're really criticizing science, because I represent science.
And then they submitted, one complainant from the U.S. submitted the entire transcript of our last discussion. So, I don't know how to defend myself against that, because apparently everything I say, and apparently everything you say too, is bringing the profession of psychology into disgrace. And I think they're most upset in that case about my comments about the inadequacy of climate models.
It is common for people to have their lives ruined by the woke mob. Jordan Peterson is not the first to face this kind of attack. But this new tactic of using institutions to enforce political censorship in the guise of appealing to the mob is an emerging and disturbing trend. This is the government indirectly silencing its critics. As a Nigerian, that looks pretty familiar, and the relentlessness of this pursuit should be scary to anyone in a democratic society. I mean, why should an academic institution act as an enforcer of censorship for the government?
But we'll also be an advocate to address the weapons that are new. After all, the face of war has changed, and with that, the weapons used. A bullet takes a life. A bomb takes out a whole village. A lie online or from a podium does not. But what if that lie, told repeatedly and across many platforms, prompts, inspires or motivates others to take up arms, to threaten the security of others, to turn a blind eye to atrocities, or worse, to become complicit in them? What then?
Oh yes. And what is that supposed to look like, Jacinda? How do we fight this new weapon of mass destruction that turns out to be words and opinions?
Leave me the hell alone, guys. You've been on my case nonstop for 7 years. Not once before that. In 20 years of practice. There's no complaints ever levied against me. It wasn't until I started to become, relatively well-known publicly that the college came after me. And 7 years of that gets to be a bit much, especially now that there's 13 lawsuits compiled up, and all of them are for political opinions, and half of them have been put forward on false grounds.
And yes, those in the mainstream media who are supposed to hold the government accountable are willing to champion the government as it attacks freedom of speech. It is as though they've forgotten that freedom of speech and freedom of the press are close siblings, and an attack on one will eventually lead to the demise of the other.
Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
If you are getting the guardrails off the truth, where it literally cannot catch up to the lies on the internet because of how the pipes work, how the system works, then that's how you lose your democracy.
Some things you have to walk away from until you can get the control you need of it.
It is as if they are willing to build the gallows upon which they will be hanged. They are like Naaman from the book of Esther, offering suggestions for their own downfall, thinking it is all for their benefit.
Every time you violate or propose to violate the free speech of someone else, you, in potentia, you're making a rod for your own back. To whom do you award the right to decide which speech is harmful, or who is the harmful speaker, or to determine in advance what are the harmful consequences going to be that we know enough about in advance to prevent? To whom would you give this job?
So this isn't a threat by the college. This is what the situation already is. I haven't been hauled in front of their disciplinary board yet, but they've already convicted me of disgracing the profession and sentenced me to an indefinite period of re-education. And that's the second most serious punishment that they can levy against the profession. The first is to take away the license. The second is to undergo this retraining and to publicly announce the necessity for that, which they've already done in my case. And so now I have to sit down with these experts at my expense for an indefinite period of time until I'm trained properly, whatever the hell that means, by the criteria of the so-called experts and the college. And that isn't pending an investigation. That's already in place.
And as Joe Rogan pointed out afterward, this is Orwellian. This is so 1984. These are measures that African leaders haven't even considered, mostly because they are not creative in their human rights violations. But the question this raises is how long? How long is this going to continue? And to the woke morons, don't you see that the ropes you are using to ascend to prominence and unearned privilege will be used later to hang you? Those who suffer under tyrants and dictatorships at one point championed and benefited from it. Olusegun Obasanjo, a former Nigerian president, was once a military dictator who later got jailed unjustly by another military dictator. See, my country has seen leaders gain power in deadly military coup and lose power through deadly military coup, from Agu Irosi to Muritala Mohammed, and it didn't matter that they had good intentions. Corrupt leaders have gained power with the support of people from their tribes and geopolitical zones who thought that this leaders' corruption would be beneficial to their region. But then they soon realized that the effect of corruption doesn't discriminate. And the same thing applies to free speech. You are not attacking the rights of your ideological oppositions. No, you are not silencing them. No, you are attacking the rights of everyone. You are silencing everyone. It may seem as though only they are suffering as a result, but you are next in line. And when it's your turn, no one will speak up for you.
Well, we can agree on the catastrophe and we can agree on the historic inequity, but there's no way I'm going to agree that political correctness is the way to address any of that, and there's plenty of evidence to the contrary, some of which I would say was displayed quite clearly tonight.
A lie about human nature can only stand for so long, but look at how much carnage there was before various totalitarian regimes and communist regimes fell. And the only question is, how long does this moment last for, and what will the body count be? What do we do to make it as short a moment as possible? And I think we tell the truth, right? We bear witness to the truth. We refuse to be cowed into silence. We all need to do our part to speak the truth. And then we need more people with the relevant credentials to be willing to speak out as well.
The only way this is going to change is if more people stand up, whether it's the entertainment industry or corporate America or wherever you're at. The solution is not to shut down conversation on politics or religion. The solution is to talk about it. Let's have that conversation and resolve it through discussion, civil discussion. There are moments in history where we have to take a stand for the greater good of humanity and the greater good of the world.
The good news is not everyone is taking this line down. People are fighting back. And that's what I admire most about the West. You see, Westerners are warriors who would rather die trying. And the gospel of non-compliance is beginning to resonate. People are willing to become social pariahs and risk cancellation as they mock the stupidity of cancel culture and defy its rule.
So I was banned from campus. I had to take implicit bias training, and I call that political re-education. He charged me with hate crime bias and threats intimidation. I have to apologize to the school for hurting the feelings. No way. No way I'm apologizing. I didn't back down, as you can see, and we're fighting back, and we filed a lawsuit.
Now, in summary, my enemies have thrown every last thing they can at me, the whole kitchen sink and a few of the appliances to go along with it. And it's not just me they're after. You know, they want to send a message to everybody else. They want to send a message to you that if you stand up against them, this is what happens. So here's my official answer. For the record, kiss my ass. I do not apologize. In fact, by all rights, you sick freaks should be the ones apologizing to me for lying and defaming me, and doing it all because I'm trying to prevent you from sexually mutilating children. You damned monsters. You child-abusing psychopaths. I wouldn't apologize to you, soulless parasites, if I had a gun to my head. Instead, I'd rather just tell you all to piss off. I apologize for nothing. I concede nothing. I will never surrender even a single inch of ground to a pitchfork mob of degenerate morons.
Lucasfilm called me and they were like, okay, we're gonna need you to go on a Zoom call with 45 of our, LGBTQ, community, and we have to get you on the phone with these people. We need to have you watch all of these these movies about the trans lives, documentaries, and I was like, okay, I'll watch your documentaries and I'll talk to your people, but I'm not gonna get on a Zoom call with 45 different people who can have their phones out videotaping me, and I feel like that's extremely abusive.
I was prepared to, at any point, get let go, because I've seen this happen to so many people. I've seen the looks on their faces. I've seen the bullying that takes place. They've quit Twitter, they've quit speaking. They show up to their red carpets and they're depressed and they're sad and there's hard hearts there. And I was like, you're coming for me. I know you are. They're making it very obvious through their employees that were coming for me. And so I was like, well, well then I'm gonna go down swinging then. And I'm gonna stay true to myself and I'm gonna let that speak.
We have decided, though, that we're not going to delete the tweet. So even though it's going to cost us in terms of traffic, even though it's going to cost us in terms of name recognition and various people interacting with us on Twitter, that's a massive chunk of our social audience that has been cut off from us. We don't think that we can in good conscience click delete on that and go through the penance process of flogging ourselves or whatever Twitter wants us to do to get our account back. With
Elon Musk buying Twitter, things are beginning to look hopeful. Even though his dedication to free speech is still in dispute, at least your account won't get suspended for calling Leah Thomas a man. Alternate media outlets are rising up, while the mainstream news outlets are crumbling, laying off employees and slowly realizing that they've become irrelevant and unreliable. And as for Jordan Peterson, he's fighting back. And he's doing so for every professional who belongs to regulatory bodies that can be exploited by the government and used as a political tool.
Part of the reason that I want to pursue this, and part of the reason we're pursuing an objection to what they're doing on Charter of Rights grounds in Canada, is because they're interfering with my freedom of conscience and speech. And again, it isn't even the case that the reason that that's a problem is because it's about me. The reason it's a problem is because the colleges in general, like the regulatory boards of professionals, are doing this to everyone.
I strongly believe that censorship will not prevail in the West, and no amount of screaming and wailing from snowflakes and activists will succeed in getting Westerners to give up their voice. At worst, censorship will make matters out of monsters like Andrew Tate and allow the spread of conspiracy theories and a lack of trust in Western institutions, but it won't keep anyone silent. It also makes it relatively easy these days to stand up for something. All you need to do is observe reality and express it, and you can get millions of views on TikTok or YouTube overnight. And that's before the algorithm begins to work its magic or you eventually get the platform. But if you ask me, it's a risk worth taking. And you don't have to be an online personality or a Jordan Peterson. You just have to be a decent person who is willing to speak the truth as they see it, no matter the consequence. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end, and if you like what you've heard, then please subscribe, and if you don't, I still appreciate that you've given me your time. And until the next video, peace.
This strange paradox that the liberals are illiberal in their demand for liberality. They are exclusive in their demand for inclusivity. They are homogeneous in their demand for heterogeneity. they are somehow undiverse in their call for diversity. You can be diverse but not diverse in your opinions and in your language and in your behavior. And that's a terrible pity. So I would say that I'm sorry that it got a bit heated in places, because I was hoping it wouldn't. I was hoping it would be a shining example of how people of all different kinds of political outlooks can speak with humor and wit and a lightness of touch. As G.K. Chesterton said, angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. And I think it's very important for us, who are privileged, all four of us, privileged to be here, to be asked to be here, to take ourselves a little bit more lightly, not to be too earnest, too pompous, too serious, and not to be too certain. It's a time, I think, for really engaging, emotionally fulfilling, passionate and positive doubt. That's what I would urge. Thank you.